Whenever you're ready, sir, you have 6.5 minutes.
Okay. So oftentimes in our society, we describe and glorify our childhood as being the best time of our lives. The time where we can have fun, we have no responsibilities, and can truly be a kid. Children's author Elizabeth Foster once said, in every garden there's a childhood. An enchanted place where the colors are brighter, the air is fresher, and the morning's more fragrant than ever. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good time. Peter Pan had such a good childhood, he never wanted to grow up. But the harsh reality is that millions of children suffer every day from illnesses such as HIV and AIDS, child abuse, they get child sex trafficking, drug problems, and the list goes on. And this is where my nonprofit organization, UNICEF, steps in to make a difference. So UNICEF is active in more than 190 countries. UNICEF stands for United Nations Children Fund. They recognize that a person's childhood determines their future. So they set out to nurture and care for these underprivileged children in hopes of changing lives for the better and ultimately pushing humanity in the right direction. So UNICEF specializes in many different areas. However, I'm going to be focusing on HIV and AIDS, the work they do in that. They focus on 4 aspects. This is prevention, care, treatment, and protection. So let me first begin by explaining how they work to prevent this virus. In 2009, over 1,000 babies were infected with HIV daily from childbirth, breastfeeding, and pregnancies. Only 26% of pregnant women, got tested for HIV in underprivileged countries. So what was UNICEF's response? They created an organization, like a sub-organization called PMTCT, which is the Prevention of Mothers to Child Transmission of HIV. They provide drugs, counseling, and psychological services for these mothers who are scarred and going through a hard process, going through a difficult time. And give me a second. Yeah, so PMTCT is just a very good organization, and it's just like a sub thing. So what do we do to make this possible? Because one of UNICEF's goals is to eliminate this transmission completely by 2015. So what do? Well, UNICEF, they realize that a lot of people don't have these resources or the drugs to make this possible. So they do whatever it takes. They send money, they make organizations in different countries to make this possible. So I talked about children and mothers affected by HIV. Well, there's also a young people population affected as well. So of the 5 million young people in low-income countries infected by HIV, 2.7 million of them live in southern and eastern Africa. Even though HIV has gone down quite a bit since 2001, there's still a lot of issues because young people tend to use drugs, use unprotected sex, and share needles. So HIV is still pretty prevalent with this age group. So UNICEF has created these prevention programs that works to educate and help these kids realize the problems with HIV and make them have safer habits. So another aspect that UNICEF works in is actually treating these children. So children actually affected with AIDS and HIV, there are over 2 million of them under the age of 15. And of the 15 million of these kids, only 28% of them have access to drugs to alleviate the symptoms. So once a child is diagnosed with HIV, you must treat them immediately. So UNICEF provides the drugs and tries to set up clinics in different countries to make this possible. So in addition to these kids actually infected with HIV, there are also kids affected by HIV. By that, I mean kids that are orphaned because their parents had AIDS and they passed away. Over 15 million people today are orphans because of AIDS. So if a parent has AIDS or they pass away from AIDS, there's just a lot of troubles that kids go through. They usually go through poverty, and they end up on the streets, and it's just a bad deal. So UNICEF has this creative, unique organization where it's called this social protection. And the social protection, they take cash donations and they give it directly to families and communities that will use the money to take care of these children, keep them off the streets. So social protection is a pretty holistic approach to use the money to keep these kids off the streets, keep them in school, and hopefully give them, somewhat of a normal childhood with all the stuff they've gone through. So, as I conclude, it is evident that UNICEF is a very extraordinary organization. They help to prevent the transmission of HIV from mothers to children, and they treat children with AIDS, with HIV, and they work to help kids that are affected by the cause of HIV. And also, they help young people. So, with millions of children in need, UNICEF strives to help kids one child at a time. Thank you.
All right, we thank